Hey, I'm Jason. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I kind of want to show a project I'm working on. Um, it's a project I started on probably 6 months ago. The general idea was to take a Raspberry Pi, preferably a Zero, and use it to control up to 16 servos for turnout control for a model railroad layout. I went as far as to design my own board there. That's a PCA 9685 PWM IC on there. There's pretty good support for it out there as far as the Python libraries is concerned, so I figured using that would be probably preferable. One of the things I ran into almost immediately, so I could get the sample code working, modified. I had it working so I could hit certain keys on the keyboard and make the servos move. Where I started really running into issues was accessing these pins directly from outside of the Python environment. And by that I mean the whole thought process for this was to be able to deploy these throughout the layout and have them connected through Wi-Fi and then access them through the IP address that's been assigned to each module and be able to essentially control the 16 turnouts per module. What I found is the way that the Raspberry Pi, like Raspbian, Wheezy, the way if you want to do that through a website, even if you've got Apache server running on this thing, which I do, accessing these pins through that is extremely difficult, and I messed with it for a good month and never really got it working the way I wanted it to. Actually, I never really got it working. So I started doing a little more research and came across the ESP32, which is actually an Arduino variant. What's nice about the ESP32 is that it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. So right there off the bat, that functionality was built in and was very quickly making the Raspberry Pi not so crucial. See, I originally was settled on this because, one, I knew that all the hardware I really needed, minus this board, was already here. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, anything like that. I knew there was plenty of program space, being able to basically develop right on this thing, let alone having to compile code elsewhere and then load it. I could do all that development right on this, which I was doing, and that is one thing I lost by going to the Arduino environment. But I still have Wi-Fi built in, which gave me instant connectivity. But also through the Arduino environment, you can directly access the pins. Something that should not be so difficult on something like this, and something I was not really prepared for. I honestly thought that this would not. I being that this thing is so popular and there's so many people making projects for them. Never in my life did I think that that functionality would be the blocking point. I figured it would just be my lack of code skills that would make it difficult for me to write the code. I didn't realize that underlying interface between the OS and, say, like a web server running on this thing was going to be. So basically the Pi option, I'm not really pursuing that now. It's kind of a shame, but it's also probably going to be cheaper in the long run to go with the ESP. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to flip the camera around. Okay, keep in mind that this is all still kind of crude and it's not exactly really ready for prime time. In fact, it's nowhere near ready for prime time, but it's at least something that I can show. So there's the ESP32 running, and been writing code for the last couple of days, and I was able to start with some base code and kind of build on that. I've since added I've probably multiplied the size of the base code by 10, to get to where it's at right now. So for my test setup here, I've got 4 servos, standard mini servos, And I'll tell you one thing I learned in my research here. I knew that not every servo was created equally, but I kind of had to prove it to myself, and it's definitely true. You can see I've been doing a little bit of just some predictions for servo arm placement, that sort of thing in the process, and of course it's all being done through code. So I've got a little interface board that I built up here just to make plugging these things in easier. I've got basically 5 volts in ground going here constant, and then I've got a wire for each channel, which is supposed to be 16 channels. Right now I've only got 5 of them wired up, and just little simple little rig I 3D printed here to hold these servos, because otherwise they want to flip flop all over the desk and it's a pain. So okay, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen my little servo switchboard. That might make sense now why I was developing this switchboard, because I had this project in mind, and I knew that if I already had it done, it would just make this one step easier, or make make it easier to develop this. So, all right, let me get back into my tablet here. So what's going on is the ESP is connecting automatically to my Wi-Fi. I've just got I'm in a hotel room for the next 2 weeks, so I'm kind of killing time while working on this project. I've got one of these little TP-Link little Wi-Fi access point servers, or it's got a DHCP server in it. And I've got the ESP32 set up to connect to that automatically. You can see I've got a blue LED there blinking just to show that it's connected. If the Wi-Fi was to disconnect, that blue LED would go out, and then of course it would sit there and trying to reconnect. So that kind of lets me know that everything is connected and working. Also on that, it's serving a very, very basic web page. As you can see, it's going to this IP, and I've got the page roughly working. It needs a lot of work as far as cleaning up this interface, but it is working. So I guess let me just go ahead and pop in here, and let me go and just hit one of these buttons, and let's see. Okay, I'm already thrown actually, so let me close it. Okay, we'll throw it again. And as you can see, I'm doing this by the web interface. And this tablet is not connected other than its Wi-Fi. I'm connected to this little access point. No internet involved here actually, other than just basic wireless Ethernet is the only thing that's involved here right now. So essentially you've got this guy here and this tablet are connected to that, and it appears to be working. So obviously it needs a lot of work. The code needs to be modified quite a bit more. But I just want to show the concept. It is working, and hoping to eventually turn this into some kind of product. Don't really know what the final product will be, but this is definitely moving in the direction that I wanted to be moving in months ago with the Raspberry Pi. But definitely, so after months of jerking around with the Raspberry Pi to get this to work, I've managed to get all this working in 2 nights sitting here in the hotel. So right there is just proof that sometimes what you conceive in your head as the proper solution doesn't necessarily always end up being the proper solution. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll post updates as I come up with some additional features and refining it and making it better. Okay, thanks for watching.